Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Hope We Six podcast. I'm delighted this evening for episode 7 to have the legend that is Garry Thompson with us tonight. Gary, how you doing, my man?
Yeah, I'm very good, thanks. Yourself? You right?
Yeah, good, thank you, buddy. Thank you, very good. Lovely to have you on, mate. So for those of you that don't know Gary, Villa legend, played all over the shop. So I will give over to Gary now to do a little bit of introduction about your background, Gaz, clubs you've played for, talk about your time at Villa. Just give us a quick synopsis of where we're at and where you've been all your life.
Right. To be fair, I started off a kid in Kingsley, Birmingham. Ended up getting I went to a Bramwood school, which was a school in Maypole, which was say about 5 to 10 miles away. I went there because it was a sporting school. Bob Latchford played there, and the Peter Latchford and the other Latchford as well. And the Stewart brothers were runners there. So I went there. My brothers went to a school called Wheelers Lane. I went to Bramwood because it was a sporting school. I ended up playing against a kid about 4 months before who was bigger than me, stronger than me in every aspect, had sideburns, attached a lot, and we was going, he's a ringer. And the referee said, no, he's one of us, he's 11. Anyway, I played against this kid. He had the answers for everything I tried to do. And bearing in mind that time, I used to play in that little in the hole, centre forward, so breaking forward, scoring goals, looking good. And this kid had an answer to everything. So I tried to beat him up, and he slapped me about. And that kid's name was Paul Dyson. I go to Bramwood School, Paul Dyson's there. Paul Dyson's the best player in our year, and I'm sort of the second best. Another kid called Malcolm Percival. We end up being best mates all through school, and we play football, cricket, we play all the sports, we do everything together. Paul gets called up for England schoolboys. Coventry take him, and they'd seen me and Percy play a load of times, and never bothered about us. And one day, one of the scouts said to Paul, "You got any good mates?" And he mentioned us, and we went down for a trial, and that's how I got myself into football. I mean, I was always going to be a footballer. That was the plan. But there was no way of getting to do it. Paul Dyson, I'm indebted to him. I mean, we're best mates anyway. We know each other since we was like 11. But without Paul giving me the shout, I wouldn't have got the squeeze. I went down there for a trial. It went okay. I ended up having going down for the 6 week holiday, and I loved it. I woke up in the morning. We did a couple of chores. We had breakfast. We went to the training ground. We did all the bits and got the kit ready for the first team as well. Then we trained. We had lunch. We trained again. We picked up all the sweaty kit. Got back on the minibus, come back, and then ate and messed about and repeat. And I did that for 6 weeks, and I loved every minute of it. Ended up the last week of it, the centre forward for the reserves got injured. First team played the reserves and celebrities in a practice match live at Highfield Road. All the fans was there, and I'm just sitting on the bench minding my own business. Bert Edwards, the manager, says to me, because they just call me Bomber, you got any goals in you? And I was like, of course I got a goal in me. Like, anyway, puts me on. And as luck would have it, I scored a wonderful goal. Jimmy was on the mic. She won a wonderful goal from one of our centre forward. Who's that? Thompson. Thompson. So I get the shout. That was on the Wednesday. On the Thursday, Alan Robinson, the centre forward, got injured for the reserves. I made my debut for the reserves at 15 on the Saturday against Aston Villa. As it turns out, I made my debut in the first team against Aston Villa as well. So yeah, there was a Villa thread running through it. But that's how I started. I had 9 clubs. I think it was 9 anyway. It was Coventry, West Brom, Sheffield Wednesday, Aston Villa, Watford.
Is Aston.
Crystal Palace. Watford, Crystal Palace, and then QPR, Northampton, Cardiff, and Northampton. So yeah, excellent. And then I finished. My last game was against Alvin Martin, who was his debut was my 3rd game for. He was playing for West Ham. I was playing for Coventry, and we ended up chasing the ball down the side of the pitch. I'd come off the bench as a sub, and they're like, "Bomber, throw yourself about." Now I'm 35, 36 or whatever. Anyway, I'm chasing down the line with us, Alvin Martin. It's the slowest race ever, and like we end up getting grappling on the floor. So we grappling, and then Alvin Martin grabs me and smacks me in the ghoulies. So I pull my hand back, and I'm like, "What are you doing? You're an old man." And I stopped there, and I said to Ackers, "I'll coach the kids. I ain't gonna go on." You know, like in it's ice hockey where the fella comes on in disruptor, or he throws the gloves down, it all kicks off. I said, I ain't going to be one of them. I used to be Garry Thompson. So in the end, I started coaching the kids, and I loved it. And I ended up going from there, coaching the reserves at Northampton. We won the reserve league. Ian Holloway offered me a 4-year contract who I knew from QPR, and I ended up coaching at QPR. Bristol Rovers, sorry. And so everything went really well. But that's probably a brief synopsis of my career.
Yeah, amazing, lovely. So when you were at the Villa, then, Gaz, how was it? How was it being at the Villa? Being a Villa fan, how was it being at the Villa? Awesome.
They tried to sign me 3 times. They tried to sign me the first time. They signed Peter With, and I think they signed David Geddes, and that was they ended up winning the title. And to be fair, when it was told to me I've introduced Donny, I was I'll go because I'm thinking I'll get some games played for Villa. My old man's a massive Villa fan, and I went to watch Villa play Santos, and that's when I decided at 13 I'm going to be a Villa fan. And that I went every now and again when I behaved myself. My uncle Charlie took me, and so but that game just summed it. Oh, that's it, I'm done. I'm a Villa fan. And when I got a chance to go there, I'd have gone. But to be fair, it worked out right. They signed Geddes, and I realised then I wouldn't have played because Peter Wigg was different class as a centre forward. He linked well with Shorey. So the first time he didn't work out. The second time I was at the Albion. They tried. So I met Graham Turner at Bodymore, and he just kept saying, if you turn down every other club, QPR, Chelsea, loads of clubs are in for me, and like the Albion were going to sell me and that because it was a long story, but I went to Switzerland to talk to Servette. While I was away, they signed Crooks and Berardi. So when I come back, they've spent the money that they're supposed to sell me for. Now I come back and the chairman's asked for some more money. He asked for another 50 grand. And in the end, the deal sort of falls through, but they've got an extra striker now. So I've said to Johnny Giles, listen, Gaffer, Crooks and Bright, I can play with either of them, because to be fair, I'm going to play. And Johnny Giles went, so when did you become a fucking coach? And I was like, I just, I'm the big one, put myself about and that, and they play off me And in the end, Johnny played them too, and it never really worked out. But I got me moved. Well, I went to Sheffield Wednesday. I had no intention of signing for him. Went up to have a chat, and Howard's missus was brilliant because she took my missus to all the houses and all the nice places in Sheffield and that. But I remember when we went to Sheffield in the car, pulled up, and as you get onto I think it's A48, you can see all the chimneys and that and the smoke coming out. And I pulled over and I got out of the car and I said to my missus, look at that. Do you think we're going to be living here? No chance. 2 days later, I'd signed the contract. And even though it was tough at Sheffield, Howard tried to change my style of play. And Sheffield were industrial the way they played. We got third in the league and FA Cup semi-final. And to be fair, I hadn't scored a lot of goals that year. And I just couldn't adapt to the way he wanted me to play. I fought against it a lot. And I should have stayed another year. But he rang me. It was 86. He was in Mexico doing a World Cup. And Howard's quite a blunt man. And he just rang up and he went, now then, Aston Villa are coming for you. You can go, you can stay. Now, if he'd have gone, look, big man, it hasn't quite worked out this year, but believe me, we can, I might have been tempted. But the moment he went like that, I'm like, I'm gone. Went to speak to Doug Ellis, and Doug Ellis said it was the easiest deal he ever did. Basically, I went over there, met Doug and Ron Wiley and Graham. I said, well, where's the manager? Don't worry about that. 6 weeks later, Graham Turner was sacked. And he offered me basically 37.5 quid a week in a car. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. And I was aside.
Ideal, mate. Ideal. It's mad, isn't it? Mad career, mate. Completely crazy.
I loved it. I actually loved it. I mean, there was no real options for me. A kid coming out of King's Heath. My brother went into the army. My sister became a barrister, but she jumped through a lot of hoops to get there. So they did ever so well. My other brother, he's passed now, but he was a bit of a rogue, and I could only see myself going into the army, which I wasn't going to do, or helping Ian do his nefarious activities, which I didn't really want to do either. So the football was always my plan. I I got the book out, but I should have called it No Plan B because there wasn't. If I were going to be a footballer, I was kind of bugging.
Yeah, crazy. So in terms of mental health, then, Gaz, I know that we've talked about this privately before, mate, several times. But as a player, as a human being going through that process, from that kind of old school setup to the more modern day way of football, how has mental health impacted your life, or has it impacted your life with some of the things that have gone on, i.e. bit moves to clubs, maybe things not working out, injuries perhaps? How has mental health itself affected you in kind of your career?
It's funny because now I look back on it, there were certain incidents where you think, yeah, I did have problems there and mentally that was tough and whatever. But when you're a young kid, from the era I come from, the age, the place I come from, it was always like, man up, get on with it, just suck it up. There was none of this like, oh, yeah, I feel a little bit. People would not accept it. And so basically, the dressing room was tough. You got bullied or butchered. So you had to stand on your own 2 feet. You had to stand your ground quickly. You learn quickly. If I'm in the dressing room, I was 15. I was in the dressing room with reserves and some first team players, and the stick flying around was brutal. And I was like, oh my God. And Harry Roberts said to me, you're only 15, so we're going to give you a couple of weeks grace, but after that, you're having it. So look, I had to learn it quickly, so I just learned to deflect it. If they had to go at me for something, I just popped it on someone else.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
My first real incident, I got in the first team at Coventry, and like it was all going really well. I'd scored against Aston Villa at Villa Park. We drew 1-1, and I got the equalising goal. I got off at full time, and I've gone, look, there you go. I'll put food on your table again, but there's nobody to thank me. And they butchered me because I was at fault. Alan Evans scored the goal, and I was at fault. I should be marking Ever. The cross has come over. I've thought I will clear this. I'll clear it off. Ever. They flicked it on Ever and said it in. So they've gone, we would have won the game. Had to be. So they hammered me like. That was on the Wednesday. I had the day off on the Thursday. Went to training on the Friday. Broke my leg on the Friday in training. Broke it in 3 places. Now, that was the first setback in my life that I'd ever. I've just been called up for under 21s as well. So on the Wednesday, I'm like Jimmy Cagney, I'm top of the world and all that. By the Friday, like I'm lying there in the hospital, and they couldn't even operate on me because I'd had breakfast. So they had to wait till the breakfast went down before they could actually set me leg, which is what saved me leg and my career, because they wanted to operate straight away. They were going to put pins in it. Their doctor came in, a surgeon, and he apparently he was round with them. I mean, I'm out of it cold. Like, he's round with them, and he's saying, no, we're going to do this procedure where we knit the bones together. And without him doing that, there was a very, very good chance that I was done. But I woke up and they told me what he decided to do. And I'm like, well, I'll be all right. And turned out I played 11 months later. But the first time I realised how fragile it was. And then, like, obviously, I broke my leg. I cried. I was devastated because, like, 1 minute I'm on the 21s, and it's gone. And then a couple of weeks after, the season's ended, and they get me in because it's the Player of the Year, Young Player of the Year, and the Player of the Year award, and I get the Young Player. So like I turn up on my crutches, I'm looking half smart and that. So I watch the game for the dugout. Half time, I go out to get me trophy and that, wave to the fans and all that. And the first time, oh my God, this is what I'm missing. I'll go in at full time. Now I'm feeling a bit sorry for myself because a young kid who plays really well that day, doesn't score, but he plays absolutely so well, Mark Aitley. So Mark Aitley has a stormer like, and I'm like, I'm normally I'll battle with anybody, but I've got a broken leg. There's no way I can come back and be fit. And so this kid's going to overtake me. And I'm like, oh my God, it's all over. I walk into the dressing room, and I'm going over to Mark, and I wish him all the best. So, well done. I thought you played really well. Because, you do all that. And like Ron Wiley, who knew how to push me buttons all my career, he's just passing now, Ron. And he went to me, well, big man, what do you think? And I said, yeah, I thought Mark played really well. The team played well. I think we beat him 3-0. He said, he says, what you got to realise in life, he says, there's one door opens, another one slams in your fucking face. And I was like, yeah. And he says, kid's done really well today, big man. I can't see you getting back from that. And I tried not to get annoyed, but I was like, yeah, okay. And I walked away. And then I went away and I was devastated. I was like, fuck, he's writing me off in that. And to be fair, that's exactly the right thing to do, because he played on my anger. And I got myself fit. It took 11 long, hard months. I got back, played in the youth team. And that's when I started playing with my socks down and that. And from there, I had ups and downs, but that's really, it was the anger that got me back to where I was going to be. Like, if I felt sorry for myself and that, then I probably would have struggled. Like, but yeah, that was the first real time where I couldn't have felt sorry for myself. I could have wallowed in it, but I had no other option. I had to get back and play football. So that was the first real setback in my career. When I went to Sheffield Wednesday, and it was a completely different situation. The Albion was a different situation where Gary Owen and Steve McKenzie knew me from the 21s, and they were saying, when Tomo comes in, he'll want to get involved in all the shenanigans, don't laugh. So like, they did the first day of training, you get through the first day of training, Gary Owen is one of the funniest men ever. He's telling stories and Statham's getting involved in it. And I'm like, yeah, what about that then? And they're like, and they just blank me, and I'm like, oh my Lord, tough crowd this. Anyway, I try again, nothing happened. So I go back home, send me Mrs. Louise. I said, no, they hate me. And I didn't want to go back. And so, mentally, you have to be tough to turn up the next day and train again.
Yeah.
I played on the Saturday, and we played, it was Pat Jennings' 1000th game. I've been put through after 15 minutes. I'm at an angle, and I try and chip it. The ball's bouncing. I look at Pat Jennings. He's come off his line like that. So I think, happy days. Ball bounces. So I try and lob him. He stopped any. So when the ball comes, he goes like that, catches it, goes, no change today, man. So, and all the Albion fans, about 20,000, they go, he's fucking hopeless, that kid. So that you imagine that's when you have to be tough, you have to be strong to sort of go through all that. And like my second game, I played against Paul Elliott. Me and him had a battle royal, and Ron Wiley came in and slaughtered me after the game and just said how crap he's wasted 225 grand on me, and then stayed him and Owen sat either side of me and basically said he's a bit harsh, that big man, and then decided to pick my game apart. So by the time they left, I was devastated. But in them days, you either pick yourself up and cracked on, or you it was sink or swim basically. It was a tough school, but it was only when my brother died. Villa got promoted, my brother died, and that was the first time I'd really, and I didn't grieve. I was so busy running around for my mum and doing all the bits and bobs that needed to be death certificate and all that. And then we had the funeral, and I took time off training from Villa. I turned up for Villa. For my first day of training was on a Thursday. We played Millwall on the Saturday. Graham Taylor and myself by now have fell out massively because he's saying, I need my centre forward back. And McInerney's my best mate, and Macca tells me what he said, and I'm like, I'm going to fucking do him. And but Graham's the manager. He wants to get his players back. But by now, I'm struggling. And I know I've just jumped to about 6 years, but that's the first real time where my brother dies, and my brother is 15 months older than me, but we are like twins, and we used to call each other all the time, always be in each other's pocket. And he had this thing where at the Albion, I'd say to him on the Monday, listen, if you want any tickets for the game, let me know on the Monday and I'll sort the tickets out. Yeah, not a problem. I need 2 tickets for the game, get him 2 tickets. And I'd be warming up. So this is now 2:30. I'm warming up, I'm getting myself in the zone. And the secretary would come in and go, Tom, come out here. And I'd come out and the secretary would, your brother's here and he's 8 tickets. And I'm like, I keep telling him. And he drove me fucking mad. But I love him, so we'd sort it out. Like, I get the tickets and all that. But I was like, he's going to put me off my game. And then he passes. Just before Villa get promoted against Swindon on the Saturday, on the Thursday, he books himself into Little Aston Hospital. He goes to the hospital and he books himself in. He's done it on the private, but he's got back problems, and like the family, we have back problems, so we don't think it's anything too serious. He has the operation. It's supposed to be, they say it's gallstones. On the Saturday, we get promoted. Saturday night, I'm absolutely out of my head. On the Sunday, I go and see him in the hospital, and I say, what was the word then? I turn up a bit worse for wear, and all he says is, I've got to take tablets the rest of my life. Never says anything else. And then it was only 2 or 3 weeks later, my sister, who's a barrister and loves, when she knows when people ain't telling the truth, she's asking questions and trying to find out this and that. And all of a sudden, like, we find out that he's got pancreatic cancer, and they don't know how long, maybe 6 months or whatever. But in 3 months to the day, he dies. So then we have the funeral. Spinksy and a few of the lads come to the funeral, were brilliant. And like on the third, I did the funeral on the Wednesday. I turned up for training on the Thursday. Graham Taylor's in the meeting, because Graham loved the meeting, and he was like, "This is what's wrong with this football club. My centre forward, he's disappeared on earth for 2 weeks, blah blah." And he's hammering me, and I'm sitting there, and I could see Stuart Gray and all them looking at me, and I'm like, "By the way, I'm here." And he went, "Right, everyone get out." Anyway, speak to me. Anyway, but Graham's got a club to run. He's got games to win. It's the first game back in what is now the Premier League, and he's got a centre forward that's disappeared for 10 days. But I did ring him every day. I rang his secretary and said, "Listen, I'm doing this, I'm doing that today. I won't be in for a couple of days. I'm going to do the funeral, blah, blah, blah." And like my mum said something which was right. Parents don't bury their children. The natural order was wrong. But when he died, we did the funeral on the Wednesday. On the Thursday, I'm back at training at Aston Villa. I come off the bench against Millwall on the Saturday. I get 10 to 15 minutes, whatever. And like, but I ain't myself. I'm not the same.
Yeah.
I play. I drink an awful lot. I'm just not myself, but I can't put my finger on it. So now people could say, yes, you've got mental health problems, but I've never known anything like it. This is my first I broke leg was a setback. My brother died. It's a massive setback, but I'm not grieved. So I'm not dealt with the situation. I'm not trying to deal with it or come to terms with it. So my brother passes. Me and Graham head to head for 3 months. He could sell me to Spurs, sell me to Man City. And it don't matter where I went, I was never going to be the same player because I was carrying all this load with me. I ended up going to Watford on Christmas Eve, signed for Watford. I played for Watford, and I do apologise to the Watford fans because the version they saw of me for that year, it was not Garry Thompson like. But yeah. I'm carrying so much. My marriage is broken up, not because of my brother. My marriage broke up because of myself. So everything was going wrong. I had a little, I had a little boy who he was me well, so I had to see him on a regular basis. I'm trying to get back to see him. The missus is being difficult, so I've got problems seeing my little kid, and it was difficult times. But I'm still got to turn up and play football. You go on a pitch on Saturday at 3 o'clock or 10 to 3. People expect you to perform. They're not interested in what's going on in my life. They don't know what's going on in my life. They expect a performance, and for that time, I just couldn't give it. Much as I was trying, and football was great. It was a distraction from all the rubbish that was happening in my life, but I couldn't shake it, and it took a long time to get over that. And now you look at it now, I was going through the process of grieving. I was going through an awful lot of different things, and having to play football and be a new signing for a club, get to know my teammates. But if you saw me, you wouldn't know there was anything wrong with me. I'd chat with people, we'd have a laugh and joke, do the training, but no one would think there was anything wrong with me. I signed for Villa. I remember telling the story. I signed for Watford from Villa. I didn't want to sign. I've been talked into signing. They give me a lot of money. I've signed. Went to the hotel room, sat in the hotel room and cried my eyes out. Just sat there and cried my eyes out because I didn't want to leave the Villa, but I had to because I had to get my career going. I had to get playing. I've lost my brother, and I was like, my marriage had broken up. And this is the girl that I've known since I first went to Coventry. So everything that I know, all I've got is my lad and my mum and dad. Everything's gone wrong, and like I had nowhere to turn. All I had was football. Was not my rock, but the thing I'd go to. But even that weren't giving me a lot of pleasure. So that was, now you can look at it, and I was suffering mental problems, as it were, like mental health problems. But we didn't know what it was. We didn't know what I was dealing with. It was a question that I had to come through it. I had to deal with it. And to be fair, when my mum died, and I had a little spell when my dad died my wife Louise, my first wife, she died. Then my dad died. Then my mum died. Cyril died. And then to cap it off, the teacher that when I was 14 took me in the office and basically said in a polite way, but it wasn't polite at all. He just said, you can be a little prick all your life, or you can actually develop into something. You've got half a chance to make something of your life, or you can be a vagabond on the street and fuck about and you basically waste your life. And he gave me the talking to that we all get from someone. That talking to puts you straight. And he gave me that talking to, and he dies as well, Mr. Williams. And like, I remember someone saying to me, I must have said something, and they said, you're taking it all personal, as if this is to you. And I said, it is. Everywhere I turn, someone I love is dying. And I didn't know how to deal with it. And like, my mum come back from Spain to live with us, and then she passed. And like, the hospice, the doctor wanted to put her in hospice after a few weeks, where she was obviously going to go, and they were going to talk about putting her on morphine and that. Anyway, never got to that. But I remember the hospice ringing me and going, "Oh, we're going to put your mum in, take your mum in." And I was like, "She's my mum. You ain't fucking having that. She's staying here. She's staying with me. This is my mother." And like, I was rude to the lady. Anyway, my mum passes, and we did a funeral, did all that, like, and then they rang me again. And I said, I must apologise. I said, I was going through stuff, but I said I was really rude. I do apologise because I'm not normally like that. And she said, no, people go through different things at different times. Anyway, if you need some counselling, then we're available. And I went, well, my mother didn't come in there, so therefore, why would I need counselling? And she said, no, everyone deals with stuff differently. You probably do need counselling. What you should do is have a think about it, but we're here. 6 months' time, if you need to talk to somebody, come and see us. Anyway, long story short, I talked to my boy about it because my boy's lost his mum, he's lost his nan, his granddad, and I'm just trying to think of the last. He's lost a few, so my boy's he's struggling. And I said to him, listen, there's a chance we can go. Well, you can go and have some counselling. I was like, I'll take you there and all that. And he's like, he has been suffering, and he said, yeah, I'll go if you go. And I was like, what do I need to go for? And he said, big man. He said, we've got together and all that, But obviously, I had separate interviews or whatever. And he spoke to me missus, and they obviously tucked me up because there'd been a conversation. And the agreement was that I'd go if he went. So I agreed to go. Then, as luck would have it, on the day he has to back out for some reason. So I end up going. And I walk in, and this woman's in there, and I chat to this woman. And every session's an hour. So I'll be doing that. She asks me questions and all that, and we chat, and it goes okay. She said to me, after about 5 or 6 sessions, I had 12 sessions all in all, and after 5 or 6, I was opening up to her and telling her stuff and that, and she said, this is good, because the first 2 sessions you came, all I got from you was the attitude of, what the fuck am I doing here? I don't need all that. She said you were so big and blasé about the old thing and that. And I think most people are like that, because you don't believe you need all that. But when she spoke to me, and then she said to me, all you can do, you can bottle it all up. All you're doing is bottling it all up. She said, have you grieved for your brother? And I was like, well, no. And she said, have you grieved for Louise? No. And she kept talking to me, and I was telling her stories about things that happened. Like I was working, because I deliver fancy cars for rich people nowadays. One day I delivered a vehicle, and they can't pick me up. And the gaffer says, oh, jump the train, 3 stops, we'll get someone to pick you up there. So I get to the train station, I'm sitting at the train station and the train gets delayed. And I'm waiting, sitting there looking, train delayed. But you know, when trains are coming in, you can hear the electricity, and I'm looking at that, and all of a sudden, like, it's sizzling. And I look at it and I think, if I just run and jump over there, it'll be over. All this, then I realised how much pain I'm in. And I said, like, if I run and jump, it'll be all over. And it was the most seductive thing ever. I just sat there and I was like, that'd be brilliant. I can do this. And I was like, yeah. And the only thing that stopped me, like Louise said to me, you've got to be there for these kids, and you tell them, Louise was my first wife, tell these kids how much I love them every day, and that, the grandkids. And I remember that popping in my head. And also the thought that the pace I move at nowadays, like the cleaner could have got there, done a cleaning, and still caught me before I got to the line, because obviously now I've got a massive limp on life. So in the end, I had a little chuckle to myself, and I thought, that's madness. But when I spoke to Karen, who's the psychiatrist, I spoke to Karen about it. She said, no, most people have thoughts of death every now and again, and killing themselves. And like she said, that's natural. What isn't natural, if you start making plans of how to do it. And she said, what you've gone through there is natural. And I had to say to her, I knew I had a problem, because I watched I periods of sheer violence. I felt very violent, or I was tearful. I'll be driving the car and I'll be like in floods of tears. I'm watching a program called The Blacklist, which anyone that's seen it, there's not a lot to cry in it. It's a gang caper. Like, I'm watching it one day, and one of the main protagonists gets killed, and all of a sudden I look, and his shirt is wet, and I'm like, I've been crying and that, and I'm like, what's the matter with me? And I couldn't put my finger on it. But when I kept telling the different things, and me outbursts of violence, or my rages and all that, and then it was either rage, or I was quiet, or I was crying. And when she explained to me, basically I kept storing everything up, and she said, in the end, it's going to blow. Basically, she taught me that you can cry. You can actually sit there and cry. You can learn to cry and get it all out. Don't store everything up. Just get it out. And that was possibly the best lesson I had, because all I kept thinking, I'm a centre forward for Aston Villa. We ain't, you ain't supposed to do all that. You're a big tough man. But all I learned was I can tell people I'm not happy with them. I can tell people I'm unhappy with stuff. I can be unhappy with life. But if I tell people, then it's easier to bear. I was carrying a burden for 30 years. My brother dying, then my mum and all them. And the thing could have killed me in the end. And luckily, Karen Smith, God bless her, I had 12 sessions with her, and we got on really well. And towards the end of the 12th session, we're meeting, and I'm chatting and laughing with her. And she said, I said, listen, I don't really think I should come see you anymore, because I feel as though I'm taking someone else's spot who could do with who needs help. And she said, well, that had to be you to tell me that. She said, you were okay. Once you started crying and you told me about Louise and you told me how you felt with your brother, she said, I knew you were on the road to recovery. And she was brilliant for me. Like, and in the end, she said, I can come back any time, but I'm okay now. I mean, I've got the kids, I keep myself busy. But all I did was, my brother died, and I ended up using the football and then moving clubs and doing this, and basically putting it all to the back of my mind, not dealing with it, just storing it all up. Then my mum dies, and then Cyril dies, my dad dies, and before you know it, I'm just storing everything up. But as she said, in the end, you're going to blow. And like, I learned, it was really good, because basically I learned I can actually cry. I can actually show my feelings of that.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, mate. It's a proper inspirational story, and I think a lot of people could relate to that for sure. I think there's a lot of that. And it just goes to show as well, doesn't it, Gary? Like, regardless of your status in life, a professional football or whatever, you've always got stuff going on in the background. And I think that's a lesson for all of us, isn't it? We're not all just this mask, this face, but nobody really knows what goes on behind closed doors. I think that's the
when I came to when I was at Palace, I played the first 3 months. We stayed up. That was the plan. 3 months I could go. Couple and me are walking on the beach in America, practically hand in hand, and he's like, "Big man, I think you've done brilliant. I want you to stay on for a bit longer." I'd signed a 2.5-year contract, but he wanted me to stay another year. But the plan was 3 months. If I wanted to go, I could go. And I'm like, I love Palace. I love the club. It was like a black club. It was loud. It was bubbly. You had Solako, you had Richard Shaw, you had Ian Wright, Mark Bright, and a monster, loud people. Anyway, I'm going, I'll stay for another year, Gaffer. Anyway, I'll do pre-season, and then they bring in a kid. This kid's called Stan Collymore. So all of a sudden, I'm like, so Collymore turns up. He's the first one I ever knew that ever, when he was unhappy, he let you know. And like, I'm mates with Stan. I've known him for a long time. Stan goes to Aston Villa, and like John Gregory couldn't understand it because he had the depression and he couldn't train. And Gregory's words were, "He's on 25 grand a week. What's there to be depressed about?" And Stan went, "It's not about the money. I could earn £1 million a week. It doesn't matter. I can't deal with this. I can't train. I don't." And people couldn't understand it. And that's the first player that I knew that ever said that. And Stan, when he was at Palace, some days he'd go, I don't feel right. And he wouldn't train. He wouldn't be involved. And because of his talent, they allowed it to go on. But they thought he was being a bit prima donna. But basically, he was trying to deal with what people have to deal with, depression and all that. He was dealing with stuff. And he was trying to deal with the best he could. He couldn't go to train. He couldn't get up. I mean, Scott Sinclair was at Bristol Rovers as a kid, got his move to Chelsea. And like someone was telling me, "Oh, he says he's fucking depressed." And then we're chatting to him, and they say you're depressed, what's up? And he said, "Well, every day I go in to training, I train Mondays to Fridays to play Saturday. I don't play Saturday. So all I'm doing is training Mondays to Friday, no end product, train Monday to Friday." So he says, "There's some days when I can't get out of bed because I'm like, what am I doing?" And like, that's the form of depression and that, but people couldn't relate to it. And it's got to this point in the last few years where people now talk about mental health and all that. But my era and the era just after me, until Collymore was the first one I ever know talk about it, no one understood it. No one understood you can have problems. It was, you're getting 20 grand a week, you'll be all right. Money is immaterial in all of that.
Yeah. Do you think depression to some extent, mate, and grieving and that loss of loved ones, that sense of belonging, still kind of stays with you a little bit now, even now?
Yeah,
with all that past?
Yeah, I have moments still. I mean, there'll be sometimes a song will come on the radio or a little thing. I'll see something on the telly, and next thing I will find myself weeping. There are times when stuff goes on the telly now, and I'll leave the room because I know if I sit there, I will start crying. And I'm like, no, I don't really want to do that because I want to. I'm getting to an age now where I want to enjoy my grandkids. I don't know how long I've got left, but I want to laugh every day. But there will be days when I feel sad. I don't want to feel sad at all. But if I have to feel sad, I have to feel sad. But I don't really want to sit there and think, "Oh my God," because I can feel it coming. Now I just want to be happy and enjoy myself. But yeah, I mean, this it's been a massive learning thing. But it's only something I've learned in the last 2-3 years. I had like 50-something years before that where basically you just got on with it and had to get on with it. And there are days when you were annoyed, but you had to get on with it. You were sad. You had to get on with it. You didn't want to get out of bed, but you had to get on with it because we had no other option. And now you can actually sit and cry or feel sad and that. Like, and that's what Karen Smith was brilliant because she taught me that. She taught me that I don't have to be rough, tough Garry Thompson or laugh every minute Garry Thompson or take the mickey of Garry Thompson, always jovial. Like, if I feel sad or feel down one day, so I mean, even now, I'm in the car driving. I'll say I'm coming back from somewhere like Yeovil. And if I'm driving for too long, I listen to football podcasts or whatever, or gangster podcasts or whatever. But every now and again, I feel tired, I listen to music. But every now and again, there'll be a tune that catches you. And then I'll start crying in that. And like, I don't feel embarrassed about it anymore. Like before, I would have been in like, you can't be seen crying. I don't give a monkey's in the day. I'm getting my feelings out, which helps me in the long run. That's
so good, man. So good. It's so good. I think, just hearing that is a message that so many men particularly want to hear. Because it is, isn't it? It's exactly about that. Who cares? And I think this whole taboo, this whole stigma around men and mental health and feeling down and feeling depressed, it's by doing those things that will help reduce that in society. Just crying because you're allowed to cry. You're a human being as well as any female is, and we can do that. And it's important that we cry. And as a true man, we all have our vulnerabilities, we all have our weaknesses, and that's life, isn't it? but it's about being aware of them and recognizing them and doing something about it when it comes to it, rather than bottling it all up or hiding behind this mask, which unfortunately so many men have done over the years, all the way from before your era through your era to even now. I would imagine there's tens and tens of professional players now who haven't come out and talked about their mental health, because that stigma still exists, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and I think it will do for a long time, because football's such a macho industry. It's a macho sport where there's tough survive and all that, and you have to be a certain, like you say, I mean, I used to say when I was a kid, I'm going to suit up, because I loved the comics and that when I was a kid, and that, and your superhero had an outfit, but I had to suit up because I had to protect myself from the racial barbs or whatever. And like, I still wanted to crack on what I got to do. So I suit up and I'm ready to. You can say what you want to me, because now I'm suited. I'm ready to go. And like, but you can only take so much for so long, and then sometimes something snaps, and then you feel the sadness is all. It's like a cloud over. You can feel it coming as well, and it's very, very upsetting at times. Like, but nowadays, if I feel that bad about it, then I will cry and I'll be better after it, and I'll be okay. I mean, the good thing is, as a man, as a 60-something-year-old man, I can now turn around and just say it's okay to cry. It's okay to be sad, because most of the time we're happy, and most of the time we're strong for our loved ones, our kids, our grandkids, whatever. We are there for them. But there are moments when they used to say about managers, the manager's a cheerleader, gets the team going and that, but who picks up the cheerleader when everything goes wrong? And as men, who picks us up? Sometimes we have to pick ourselves up, but by crying and getting it all out, you feel strong enough to move on again. Because I carried shit on my back for 30 years about my brother and then my mum and all that. I carried that. And like, I'm not, you fucking idiot. Because my career, my brother died. I got promoted with Villa. So you're looking at, I was 27 or whatever. Now I played till I was 37, but I could have been so much better when I went to Watford or whatever, if I'd have learned to let go, to cry, to be upset and be able to shed it and move on. And like that annoys me now, because I'm like, you arse. Why did you just, be yourself, just let it out, bang, and you feel better for it. Not store it all up. Because only, as she said, there's a point you'll get to. She said she kept saying it was like a kettle. You keep adding water to the kettle, eventually it's going to spill over, and it does.
And it's only now, though, like you said, I mean, we said plenty of times off camera, but, it's only now that you can look back and really see those moments, those times, those periods where you were genuinely mentally struggling and may have had some sort of mental illness going on. But at the time, you kind of, you put it to the back of your mind and you don't think about it, because that's the kind of culture that you were in at that time, right?
Yeah. The culture was always be strong, not show any weakness. You couldn't, I mean, some of the players that I played with now, they used to talk about foreign players. When foreign players first come over and they're rolling about and that. And I remember someone saying to me, we was always told never show you were in pain, never show any pain, never show fear. And like, but it's natural to be wary sometimes and be upset sometimes. It's just natural. It happens. But we were told, because the era I was from, but there were hard men, and there were hard men before my era when I played as well. But my era was full of a lot of hard men, and no one ever showed any weakness, or everything was seen as weakness. So you couldn't show any kind of weakness in that. So you wouldn't go to the manager and say, listen, I'm struggling a little bit. I need a couple of to get myself together. You couldn't do that. And like, and to be fair, at the time, I wouldn't have done it, because I'd have been scared to death. My teammates looked at me different, like. So, but it's a lesson learned. 20 years, 30 years, too late, but it's a lesson learned.
Yeah, and you're doing all the right things now, I guess, and making all of those things happen now, and that's the important thing. So to just kind of finish us off then, guys, after that awesome story, mate, and I really appreciate you kind of shedding all that out, mate. I really do. Describe your time at Villa in 3 words, and then kind of your message to fans, the Villa fan base, your message of life. What's your one motivational kind of message for anyone in their life?
Describe a time at Villa. Despite the fact we got relegated, they tried to sign me 3 times, and when I finally got here that year, I knew it was wrong within the 2 weeks, and we got relegated. And the abuse I took as a Villa fan, but Gary Shaw used to make sure we went to all the local pubs. So they get it out on us. They're like, yeah, I'm fucking shit. And you'd have all that and you'd put up with it. But once they spent time with you, they realised you weren't just deliberately playing absolutely rubbish. You were just rubbish. But I mean, I got to say, in 3 words, absolutely fucking fantastic. I loved it. I love the time there. I love playing with the player. I mean, I love football. I love being with players anyway. I love the training and everything. But to play for the club that my dad supported and all my family supported, and then my debut for Villa, we played Spurs, and we got beat 2-0, I think it was. And Richard Gough made his debut for Spurs, and I played against him before when he was in Scotland and that. And I'd slapped the taste out of his mouth on a regular basis, and he battered me. And I watched the game after, and I watched the way we played, and I'm like, there's something wrong here. And then I was talking about the way we trained and the way different things for that mean, and it all went horribly wrong. And my career looked like it could be ended because of a groin strike. Like, turned out to be an inguinal ring hernia. But they were on about giving Doug tried to offer me 20 grand to retire, and like I couldn't go out like that. Got my career back, got us promoted, top scorer. Aspinall tries to claim record goal scores with me, but I was the top scorer. And like we've ended up getting promoted, and so something that I've been part of that went wrong was done right in the end. So as I say, my 3 words, absolutely fucking fantastic. I loved my time at Aston Villa. Loved living there. Even the shit times were brilliant.
Yeah, that's good. That's lovely to hear. And your kind of message to fans, your one life quote?
Basically, learn all you can, be a sponge, and enjoy every minute of it, because you never know when it's going to end for all of us at some time. You never know it's going to end. So whether it's this minute or in 10 years' time, make sure you get the most out of it and enjoy every moment you can, because it's there to be enjoyed. We don't know what's on the other side of this, but we're here now. Now, I was watching that The Last Dance with Michael Jordan, and they were saying that he is the one person they've ever known to live in the now, every day.
Live in the present.
And that's what I say. Live in the now. Live for this moment and enjoy this moment. People around you are beautiful. Let them know you love them every day you possibly can, and just enjoy everything, every moment of it, because it'll soon be over. So enjoy it as much as you can.
I love that, Gary. I love that, mate. What a lovely way to finish. And I'm absolutely blessed, mate. I know that we're mates, but I'm blessed that you've come on the screen, mate. And I really appreciate your time, your words, your inspiration, your journey. And I'm not sure. I know Villa fans across the board will love watching this and hearing what you've got to say, because it's truly, truly wonderful, mate. So thank you very much for your time, Gary. I really appreciate it. And I hope that everybody's enjoyed it. Yeah, man, up the Villa, mate. And thanks for coming on, bud.
No problem. And any swearing, I apologise. Sometimes I can't control. Take it easy.